Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for inviting Council over to your valley here tonight, and we're certainly pleased to be here. I think it was last year. It was a great success, and we were able to mingle with the people and listen firsthand to some of your concerns from over here, but bearing in mind that we represent the whole of the Council, so over both sides. But we've come here because it is more convenient. We actually get more people come here than over on the other side. The other side. The other side. The dark side. Can everybody hear me all right? We have got microphones and we can use if required. Telephones, if you have a phone, if you could ask you to put on silent or turn it off, please. Before I start, I also want to thank the UKVCA and particularly Mary and her crew for setting up here tonight. The venue's really nice and it's warm, and the background. She had a beautiful jug of water here before I was scared, asked her to take it away because I didn't want to break that beautiful jug. But, it's really hospitable, and we certainly appreciate that. And certainly there's cakes over there that I've been informed by my wife I need to stay away from. So I'll have water. We'll commence the meeting. Mr. Bird, you want to commence with item 1?
Recording and live streaming of council meetings. So most council meetings are recorded. So all council meetings are recorded and most are live streamed. The exception today is tonight's council meeting isn't being live streamed, but it's being recorded tonight and it'll be put on our YouTube channel tomorrow for people to watch at their leisure. So the video is focused on a specific area, however audio can be captured from the entire room, so the video is focused all the way from Director Cook around to Councillor Pearce. And by speaking during question time or at any time during the meeting, you consent to your voice and any comments you make being recorded. In common with all narrative during council meetings, verbal responses to congratulations, obituaries and question time will not be recorded within the 50 minutes. The reason behind recording council meetings is of course to hold us more accountable and improve transparency of council decision making to our community. The full meeting will be recorded and uploaded to council's YouTube channel, which is Alpine Shire Council, and will be available on our YouTube channel shortly after tomorrow.
Thank you. We stand for the acknowledgement of traditional custodians.
The Alpine Shire Council acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we are now on. We also acknowledge those people who have contributed to the rich fabric of our community and strive to make wise decisions that will improve the quality of life for all.
Thank you. I'm assuming that members present know our councils, all our councillors. But I'll just go around from my right is Councillor Pearce, Councillor Forsyth, Councillor Knapstein, myself, Ron Janis, our two locals, Tony Keeble, Peter Roper, Councillor Sarah Nicholas, and I'd like to welcome Elaine Burridge, Acting Director Assets, and Natalie Cook, Director Corporate. Come in, sir. Confirmation of minutes. Item 3. 3.1, special council meeting.
Work both 3.1 and 3.2. Ordinary council meeting.
Councillor Roper, seconder.
Second.
Councillor Forsyth, do that one first. All those in favour? No discussion, thank you. Carried. Apologies, there are no apologies for this evening. All councillors are present. Obituaries and congratulations from my left. Councillor Rotho.
Nothing.
Mr. Keating. Councillor Knapstein.
That's right.
No.
Just a small congratulations from me, and just the Bright Hospital. Had a little incident there the other week on my way to work, and probably saved my life, but more so to the people that run the Bright Hospital, and I compare it to the Mount Beauty Hospital and probably the Myrtleford Hospital, just alike. That we can still have a hospital that you get into a bit of trouble. I had a bit of a heart thingo, and you can wander in at 5:30 in the morning and knock on the door, and they can basically save your life. And it's just wonderful to have our little humble hospitals there looking after us. That, you know, the big people that eventually they're trying to push you further and further away and push you down to Wangaratta or whatever, but there's still a place for our small little hospitals for all of us. Thank you to the staff down at Bright.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to, I will say what I was going to say, and that was congratulations on Darryl on surviving the little turn he had last week. Because council, I haven't been to a councillor's funeral yet, I've only been sitting there, and I was worrying about the cost. And having to work out who else is going to be on council. So Darryl, I am actually glad because you've actually saved the community by not dying.
Thanks, Darryl.
Thanks Bright Hospital too, and to Mount Beauty Hospital and to Myrtleford Hospital.
I think it's indicative of the service offered by Alpine Health, and they certainly have their trials and tribulations with funding and providing that basic service for community. So we'll endeavour to ensure Mr. Sayes, the CEO, gets your note and passes that on to the staff. Item 6, declarations by councillors of conflict of interest. We have in item 8.2.1, community grants funding program. I have declared a conflict of interest with my involvement in the Myrtleford and District Landcare Group. Councillor Keeble has declared a conflict of interest with his involvement in the Birkenbine and Nordic Ski Group, Mount Beauty Men's Shed and the Mount Beauty Tennis Club. In item 8.2.2, event funding program 2017-18, I have declared a conflict of interest with my wife's involvement in the Myrtleford Festival. Councillor Knapstein has declared a conflict of interest with her involvement with the Bright Autumn Festival, and Councillor Keeble declared a conflict of interest due to his involvement with the Kangaroo Hop. At the appropriate time within the meeting, those councillors with a declared conflict of interest will leave the confines of this building, go out through the toilet doors there to a separate room while a vote is taken, and there will be a new chair for the meeting for that discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Councillor.
I'd just like to make note that in, pardon me, item 8.2.2, there is some funds that have been available to the Myrtleford Rotary Club. I'm a member of the Myrtleford Rotary Club, but I don't declare a conflict of interest. I'm just making a note of it.
Thank you.
Good.
I think it's when we have small communities and there's so many things happening and we have active members of communities, it's difficult sometimes not to have some sort of conflict, whether it will be real or perceived. But thank you, councillors, for declaring those in the light of good governance for this council. Item 7, public questions. Questions on notice will be limited to 2 questions per person. Questions on notice can be written or from the floor. The council would come over here tonight to seek the views of the community. And it's at my discretion in relation to question time, and I think it would be proper that in the circumstances that I allow questions from the floor that are not related to the agenda items, and we have some questions on notice, so council is happy to take those questions as they come forward. So most of our officers are here, and I'm hoping that if we can't answer them directly, then we'll make some arrangements so that you can have those questions answered. So I think that's a fair and reasonable thing to do in the circumstances here tonight. Of course, you've all made that effort, and I think we should make that effort back toward you. So I'll deal with the questions on notice first, if you don't mind. It's from... Oh yeah, Helen Howell. Is Howell here tonight?
Yes.
Oh, thank you, Helen. I'll read the question and then we'll deal with each question. I think you've got a couple here. Yep.
If you like, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Question is, I'd like to know what plans the Alpine Shire has for improving the local environment. The ideas include request landowners to remove noxious weeds as outlined in the Alpine Shire weeds, identification and control of important weeds in the Alpine Shire, November 2006. I think Mr Bird has a reply to that.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So, Helen, thank you for the question. Council works closely with its partner organisations in the control of noxious weeds across Alpine Shire. So we have an annual budget of about $60,000 for its annual roadside weed control program, where we target reasonably controlled weeds under the Catchment and Land Protection Act. Now, Council has and continues to make direct contact with landholders that do have visible signs of weed infestation on their properties. We inform the landholders of their responsibilities under the Catchment and Land Protection Act, but we are not responsible for enforcing compliance of this Act.
And I think we could look driving through our beautiful countryside. Some of our worst offenders are actually government agencies that are higher than us, and they provide that $60,000 each year. So it is, and I know exactly where you're coming from in relation to blackberries and noxious weeds out in our beautiful parks and forests, and up until recently almost directly across the road here, which was very visible. Part two to that, negotiations with AGL to install electric car chargers in each town, enabling motorists from Albury and Omeo to travel and tour into the Alpine Shire. The note that France is aiming to have no petrol or diesel cars by 2040. Norway is well on the way.
Thank you. Another really good question. So in my immediate thoughts of this one was to Wodonga City Council, which have installed some supercharged Tesla stations, and I made contact with them after receiving your question on notice, so thank you for providing in advance, providing some research there. And I understand that, I don't know whether they approached Tesla or which way it came, but they have installed a number of charging stations there, supercharged stations, and in doing so it didn't cost the council anything to do that. However, it has cost them some car parks, and we all know how important car parks are to our community, and I do believe they've come us they've got some feedback on that as well. But so in summary, there's undertaking further research. There are some charging stations within the Shire. So there's 8. They're located at Dinner Plain, Popham Heights, Harryfield, Brighton, Punter and Gapstead, but they are on private properties, and they're ones that take a long time to charge. So it clearly shows there are some people in our community that have electric vehicles.
Falls Creek.
Sorry, within Alpine Shire. So Falls Creek is outside, but not a technicality, but point taken. Thank you. And we haven't been approached yet by Tesla to provide such, or by the community. So this is the first time we've actually had that request made. So I guess council would respond to that upon the request for that. And at this stage, people have those cars haven't put in that request. So nor has Tesla either approached us to put those in. There's a number of things which council need to take into consideration around the safety of where they go and also the location as well, because it would actually lose a car park. It also begs the question whether it can be done on could be a private partnership with another another business, for example. So there's a few options there, but in summary, we have been approached it.
So may I add to that?
Yes.
I think that the car park right here would be a good place, near AGL and the info centre, and I just thought it might be a good tourist thing for if they're able to charge their cars in Albury-Wodonga, then they'd have enough to get here and then recharge and then go on to the next place.
I think it's a very forward-thinking question. Certainly when you read the papers about some of the Scandinavian countries and where they're at with electronic cars, and we're going to have to put our thinking caps on as well. But I think we'll have to work with private industry, whether we have a Caltex supercharged electric car charger or whatever private industry says that they want to do. I did read somewhere where it costs a person about $1,000 a year in electricity to charge their car. So if we multiply that, and if those sort of things aren't properly sorted out, it comes back to ratepayers to pay those sorts of fees, and a multiplier effect, it could have a negative effect for ratepayers, and that's where private industry want to build these things, that they need to work then with private industry to provide the charge service.
Can I also make a plug to Mr Mayor for a recharge program which was delivered by council last year. I believe Elaine led that, where we installed mobility scooter charge points at a number of locations across the Shire, including the Bright Visitor Information Centre, Mount Beauty Visitor Information Centre, Bright Sports Centre, Mount View Library and Mount Beauty Neighbourhood Centre.
So we're starting small. Your third question, encouraging new homeowners to install solar panels and ensure that Shire buildings used during the day, for example, library, Shire office, to have enough solar panels to cover electricity usage. Mr Cook, do you have a reply?
Yes, thank you, Mr
You
Mayor.
have some experience in this field.
I do. My previous role was in electricity, so I do have a little bit of experience in electricity. When we undertake upgrades of council buildings or we develop new council buildings, we do take the environmental sustainability of that building into consideration. And on a case-by-case basis, we do determine whether solar panels are part of that upgrade works. So, for example, the Shire office in Bright does have solar panels. It is a solar-powered building at the moment. And we do have solar panels on the Bright Sports Centre as well. And one of the reasons for that is that those solar panels can help offset the cost of and the electricity usage of heating the pool. So those facilities currently do have solar panels on them. Where it becomes more difficult is about how we could require or encourage private developers and people who are developing their own home to install solar panels. Under the Planning and Environment Act and under the Building Act, we don't actually have a mechanism under those planning and building acts for us to either require or encourage private developers to install solar panels. Well, most of the incentive for solar panel installation comes from the state government in terms of financial incentive. So there's a group called Sustainability Victoria, and they actually often offer incentives for projects that include solar panel installation. So I have a link to their website if you're interested, I can give you after the meeting. I'll also get it put up on our Facebook page if anybody wants to go to Sustainability Victoria's Facebook website and have a look at the projects that they offer funding for. I think that would be very useful. There are a range of environmental initiatives they offer funding for, not just solar panels, but it is one of the ones that they take.
Why wasn't the Mount Beauty Library considered for solar panels?
Yeah, I wasn't actually with council when Mount Beauty Library was upgraded to them.
That's a good question, and it was, I guess it wasn't included in the scope, and we always, with all our projects, we work within certain budget constraints. In hindsight, I guess, is there something we could have gone without that could have allowed that? That's a question, I think, and that's a type of building which is a day-to-day use building where you would want to be wanting a rather intermittent use building like a football pavilion or something like that.
Can I just add, please, Mr. Mayor? I think there's a far greater drive amongst the current council to do exactly what you're talking about. So it's far less likely that something like panels on the library would slip under the radar in the future. Not promising, but that's just the way the council's thinking at the moment.
Thank you. And your fourth question, initiatives for the control of deer, foxes and rabbits. Mr. Booth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, council appreciates the impacts these pest species have on the local and wider environment. We're limited in the areas that we can undertake effective and conventional rabbit or fox control, just due to the limited buffer zones regarding the use of 1080 baiting techniques. We do appreciate that the deer population is ever increasing, and last year we actually made a submission to the parliamentary inquiry into the control of invasive animals on Crown land. In the garden setting, I think the Mayor has already given me some insight into this. Protective fencing and tall and robust tree guards can be employed effectively in limiting the browsing impacts of deer, and council supports but is not in a position to lead any endeavours that target reduction in the increasing numbers of deer across the landscape.
Yes, Councillor Peter.
There's a project going over in Harritville at the moment with deer control, and they're looking at how to get that, because the deer are they're not a feral animal, they're actually a game. So there's different controls around what you can do with game, unfortunately. So until they change that specification, which probably won't happen at the moment anyway, but it'll be interesting to see what parks are doing in Harritville with the community there, because they're looking at how to curb the infestation of the deer population coming into town. So we'll look at that one keenly after what they decide.
The issue with the deer was brought up last week at the Community Resilience Committee meeting, which we had a number of Parks Victoria, Deputy and other government agencies present. And it also, there was some conversation about the Regional Partnerships Program in Wodonga the other night, certainly at the table I was at, as a ever-increasing concern for residents. And I don't care if they eat my agapanthus right down, but I'm getting really annoyed with them eating my citrus trees and destroying them at the moment, because I back onto National Park, and I'm limited as to where I can use the 303.
Very limited.
Very, very limited. I'm very conscious of the law in that regard. So there are no... Oh, hang on, yes, we can. A question from the Upper Kiowa Valley Community Association. What steps can the Alpine Shire take to ensure consistency in selection and the use of names? Attached there's two photographs which show just one example. The wayfaring sign shows Mount Beauty River Walk and the Pondage Walk. If the visitor walks to the next sign approximately 20 metres away, this sign shows Pebble Beach and the Lake Loop, which still refer to the same walk as shown in the wayfaring sign. Somewhat confusing for visitors, which it would be, who wish to do either walk. When the walk along the river was in construction, the sign used indicated it as the West Kiowa Trail. While speaking of wayfaring signs, is it possible to add to these signs, for example, Crayon or Canyon Walk?
Let it out to the
A little bit of graffiti on the way.
kindergarten.
Virgil for the response.
Mr. Mayor. So I am aware of the inconsistencies with some of these, and it's not an ideal situation. When we do things, we like to do them right the first time. In this instance, we haven't quite got it right. The reality, I guess, there's a few parts to it. Firstly, we like to, the person who's made this question, so as opposed to this question, come in contact with the acting director of assets to identify where those inconsistencies lie, and then we'd like to understand how many there are, what cost it would be to rectify those signs, and then understand whether or not it can be scheduled. We put it to council to see whether it can be scheduled in this year's capital works budget, or whether it's something for a subsequent year. So I guess it's relatively minor in dollars, but the effort to go through is it's not great. But I guess I think about our capital works program, it's a significant program. Last year was our just one on record. Regardless, it's something which we do need to rectify. So please go with the acting director of assets later after this annual.
Well, I'll just mention one thing. I don't think the group was particularly concerned about what's there at the moment, apart from maybe adding something to it. But guaranteeing that in the future, somebody who's putting up a sign checks what the names of places are with somebody in the Shire who's responsible for it.
I could not agree with you more.
Thanks, Joe.
This is fortunately one project was done before I joined, so I can. But I.
Learning quickly, Charles.
And you can't underestimate local knowledge.
And stakeholder engagement.
Right, so I have no further questions on notice per se, so I'll take questions.
Excuse me, there
Yes.
were a couple of questions emailed to be on notice about a week ago.
I'm sorry, I don't.
So
You do accept them on email?
we do, yeah. So we actually, my executive assistant made a number of efforts throughout the last couple of days and today to identify whether there was any more questions on notice that had been received. So I apologise that they found their way to us. But please.
Let's start with you then.
Okay, well, they
If you
actually
just
weren't-
just
they
for
weren't
our
from me.
records.
They weren't from me, but I know a couple of people did submit. And I think you were one, Ron, weren't you? And they were sent about a week ago, so I thought they would have been under
And I hope
consideration.
can we talk after the meeting and find out which address it was sent to? I'd like to understand where it fell down.
Okay, I'd be happy to do that.
Would you like to ask a question?
Yes, I would. One related, well, they both related to pool
You
development.
need, excuse me, can you just state your name for record? Sorry.
No.
Oh,
Sorry.
yes, Lenka Regal, now Beauty. Is that enough?
Yep.
Good. They both related to the development of the Mount Beauty pool, and one question from memory was, would the chance of a feasibility study be raised in terms of pool development if there was a corporate interest, if it was done on a corporate public basis?
Sorry, can I ask the question back to you? Is this to do with heating the pool or just a pool development?
It's to do with enclosing and heating the pool.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
There have been previous questions put to council, this is at the follow-up, and it's a bit more specific. Okay, so it's looking at the possibility of having corporate involvement in terms of funding.
So we met a couple of months ago now. We
Yes.
discussed the Mount Beauty indoor pool, the possibility of an indoor pool and heated pool for Mount Beauty. And at that time, I relayed the challenges that are faced
Yes.
to actually
Yes.
that to be overcome. And I'd welcome further discussions if you could see a way to reduce the ongoing cost
Yes.
of that heating pool, because really that's
Yes.
where it falls down greatly. And the cost for council that's quite base. So I'd be happy to have a further conversation about that.
Okay, that would be good, thank you.
And was there a second question
Did
that
you want
was
to ask?
posted?
I think there was a question, I mean, these were not coming from me, this was from talking to the people who had submitted them. I think one related to the timeline in terms of the strategic pipeline that the council has, which has been referred to on a number of different occasions. Whether the idea of enclosing and heating the pool so it can be an all-year facility is actually in that pipeline.
I can confirm that it is in the pipeline, and I can't tell you exactly where it is in the pipeline. I imagine it's not a high priority for council, so the way the pipeline works, we have projects phase either current, so ones we're going to do this year, financial year, ones will be done, or not done, but which have indicative implementation for in the next council plan period, so the next 4 years, the next 4 years after that, 4 years, 8 years, and then beyond that, which is effectively 2036. I suspect it's more down the tail end than the front end.
Unfortunately, yes. But if council could be convinced to do a feasibility study by there being interest from other parties, then presumably it would be moved.
Well, that would be subject to the outcome of the feasibility. I guess there has been a reluctance of council to undertake a feasibility study to date so far, because all the indications are strong indications that it wouldn't stack up. And so it doesn't appear to be a good use of council time or resources and time and money to actually undertake that feasibility study.
Identify the corporate partner link, and I think that'll be the...
Well, it hasn't been decided.
Yeah, I know. Once you do that, that'll expedite the process. So if you can find someone willing to back the project,
Sure.
then that'll help speed the process up.
Yeah, I'd certainly be in touch as soon as that happens. Yeah, I just wanted an idea just to explore that area. Thanks.
Thank you. Oh, Mary, I'm sorry, for the purposes of the recording, Mary.
A couple of questions I've got, but I'll put what I think probably is a more pertinent one of the two at the moment, which relates to the last council meeting. At the July council meeting, results of the community satisfaction survey were released. Council basically patted themselves on the back for the overall performance, which rose from 60 to 61. In the same survey, figures community consultation dropped from 60 to 56 and making community decisions dropped from 60 to 57. These figures are both slightly better than the compared figures from other small rural communities and statewide, but in the report itself it recommends that council should pay particular attention to this area. What plans does council have to improve their community consultation results?
So I'd like to think that the community seen a significant improvement in stakeholder engagement over the last couple of years. I'm probably talking more about the capital works area, and that's where there's some engagement throughout. And I think the wayfinding project, or the signage that was brought up in the areas there is that's an indication that there wasn't adequate stakeholder engagement done at that point in time. I think if that project was done today with the team we have in place and the process we have in place, it would be a different outcome. In terms of community consultation, that's the capital works. So I think.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I disagree with you, Charlie.
Yep.
Because basically, this comes back to the actual the survey. This is something that we have to actually partake. This is something that is random by nature, and this is something that's surveys. It's a telephone survey that's just completely random. So the results you get, if you get a positive result out of someone being cold called, I don't know, if I rang Jim and he'd had Jim Crevitt in the back row, then he'd had a particularly bad day or something like that, and he'd just found out that the Pebble Beach Walk, wasn't going forward or something like that. He'd ask how the community consultation was, you give me a score 1 out of 10, you go -10, and so, realistically, overall, we have to say, if you look at what we've actually achieved on these scores, since my time and Tony's time, Daryl's time on council, is if we are looking at how much input we actually have into them, if you get a positive result, you actually do quite all right. Because it's luck of the draw. I've been rung once, and I wouldn't let them get the whole way through the process, and then said, "Oh, you really sort of can't talk to me because I'm actually a councillor. You can't do it very quickly." But yeah, so has anyone actually ever been rung up for you have 2 term thing? Yep. 3, 4, yep. Well, that's extraordinary. All right.
For a small community. Could I just speak on that too, Mr Mayor?
Yes.
I think I moved that motion on that issue, and I moved it quickly, but I don't think we're looking for a pat on the back with those figures.
That's the way it came
Yeah.
over, I'm sorry
No.
to say.
We got through it unscathed, I think is what we're saying. But I think on that aspect of the community consultation, that everyone here, around this table here, thinks that it is an important part of actually what we do. And how do you get that to be better? Well, that's a process that...
It is.
Yeah, I'd like to say
Well,
something on
this
that.
is a start.
Yeah, no, I'd say something on that as well. The previous one where you said there was 61 and then we're now 56.
That was the
When was the
other-
previous one done? Was it 12 months prior or was it
12 months.
12 months prior? And I think you'll find in that interim period, council, and I'm talking about council, not councillors, council actually undertook a whole lot of other things to do over that period of time, and there was a whole lot more consultation. So when you do a whole lot more things, and there's a lot more consultation, you're also going to upset a whole lot more people, because not everybody likes what's happening. And over that period of time, there was a lot of angst over the Matkin Square, right? That was nearly like a 40-60, so therefore you're only going to get 60% agree with it anyway. So when we do more things, I think you're going to find that those figures will come back down. But as Councillor Roper said, if we get a positive out of it, then it's fine. And as Councillor Pearce said, we weren't actually patting ourselves on the back, we were accepting the report, basically.
Just to follow that, sorry, Sarah, is it those you were contacted, you're all contacted on a landline, not on a mobile phone, because they don't ring mobile phones, and landlines are dropping off. So realistically, are we getting a true representation of the community? And more and more houses are dropping the landline and just going mobile only. So yeah.
Councillor Nicholas.
So try not to repeat what's been said, but I agree with that. I think one of the things about the whole community satisfaction survey, apart from the fact we have to do it, is that the answers don't give us much insightful information, and that the best way we can make sure that community engagement is better is to talk to people we've tried to engage with, and that's at a smaller scale, and finding out whether what we did worked. I think that's the sort of area we're going to.
Can I just question the have to do it? Because in the report here it says that you can opt in or opt out.
Certain sections.
So,
you can-
I mean, you can still do a survey, run it yourself, couldn't you?
No, no, we did go down that thinking path, but because we've been informed that we have to.
We can do a survey, but it's in addition.
I don't know, local government board framework.
We take the tight ass method, pay as less as we can to get the result.
That we have to for a report.
Can I ask how many people are contacted in the survey? 400 across the Shire? And
quite on that.
these figures that we've been quoting, the sort of 60% sort of figures, is that, those are that's the percentage of people contacted who were in favour of what the Shire was doing, or does it mean that's the percentage of people who were willing to respond to the survey? So I'm happy to actually go through some of the survey data in more detail outside of this as well. But the 61 is a deemed percentage point. Not everyone who's contacted has an opinion on the Shire or has a recent interaction, which is one of the complicating factors. So out of this, the people that they contact, there will be a proportion that would say, yes, I've had a recent interaction, and this is what I thought. There would be another proportion that say, actually, I haven't had anything to do with the Shire in 10 years, but this is what I think. And so the number can be quite complicated in how they calculate it. Yes, I would like to hear more about it. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Rather dry and boring subject, statistics.
No, nothing to do with it.
Thank you, Mary. Did you have a second question?
Oh, I did. Council events grants are included in tonight's agenda, so this question is pertinent to tonight's agenda for a change. And those on the selection committee are actually acknowledged in the agenda. Did Council seek a representative from the Kiewa Valley for this selection panel? If so, who? And if not, why not?
They did.
We did, and I've forgotten the gentleman's name. He was quite succinct in his calculations.
I think it-
Trish and
No, Trish was on
That was
the other one.
community grants, yeah.
What was his name?
Yes, now.
Can we take that one on notice?
Yeah.
It
We
says
did.
representatives from Myrtleford and Bright Chamber of Commerce, a representative from Harrietville,
Yes.
and then all of the other people are either councillors or council employees, as I read it.
Yeah, we did seek input from Keyword Valley. I'm just lost right at the second as to who that particular person was, so I'll come back to you on that one.
The-
So there was.
Yes.
Did that person
He was a
actually
very-
attend?
No.
No, that's
So, yeah.
we're very conscious of the fact of having all areas represented and youth included in those panels. We can only ask if they don't turn up. Obviously, it's something that's on. So, further questions? Gentleman up the back, sir.
My name is Sandro Raka. I'm from Tavonga South.
Yes.
And I understand the urban share or council role is serving our community. That is basically one of your role in this urban share area. But I wonder why you didn't consult with us as the community of Mount Beauty and Tavonga South, with the rubbish dump shut down for the people which wandering around this area. And I recently just clashed with attendant or chef which look after for the rubbish dump. And in the past, this rubbish dump for some people is rubbish, but for some people is a treasure, which from my experience in the past, I picked up some stuff from the rubbish dump and they've been very useful around my house. But now is the council shut down this for some safety reason or whatever, without any consultation with the community, because it's they like to be safe instead of us wandering and looking for something around the rubbish dump.
So I believe that what you're referring to is what we deem scavenging at rubbish dumps. So what we've had is we've always had a no scavenging a rule around the transfer stations. So you can enter the transfer station if you have material to dump as a transfer station. You cannot enter with an empty load in order to go through the material at the transfer station and remove things. That is always, under my understanding, that's always been the undertaking at the transfer station. However, over time, and with different staff members moving in and out, some of the rules are being applied very inconsistently, although the signage has always been up to say no scavenging allowed. We've recently had new staff appointed to the transfer stations, and so they've all recently undergone training. So my assumption is in that new staff undergoing training, they've been taught the rules at the transfer station and they're applying them, and that's what's happened. But there hasn't been a change of rules at the transfer station. It's always been what we've been deemed on no scavenging at the transfer stations. So the public cannot enter a transfer station for the sole purpose of removing rubbish from the transfer station.
That's right.
Trying to help out, aren't they?
Of my personal experience, I have seen people in very precarious situations on the metal tip, trying to get something from right up the top, and there's all these sharp objects down there, and it is frightening to know what could happen to that person if they accidentally fell. But you know, I understand that recycling in every community should be encouraged, but our bylaw at the moment doesn't allow for that. I think it's been at the goodwill of our staff that they allow people to go in and have a look, and they might pay a couple of dollars or something to grab an old wheel or something that's of a bit of a treasure or a need to one of our to the residents. But I can understand if if the staff are being told and they're trained, these are the rules, and they're doing what they have been instructed to do. And unless we have some other way of dealing with that, and I think that we can't push the staff any other way, and perhaps we need to get that message delivered better. Yeah. So I certainly I see lots of treasures when I go to the tip too, but I keep driving. Further questions? Yes, sir.
David Whelan is my name. My partner and I own the fruit and vegetable shop down in Toowoomba South, which chose the venue in Toowoomba South because after looking at Mount Beauty for a couple of years, we noticed that we believe there's not very much room for business growth in Mount Beauty. Size-wise, there were empty shops, but in the next 10 years' time more, there doesn't seem to be very much room for more businesses, more buildings. We saw that growth down in Toowoomba South, so that's why we set up a business down here. Although I looked at Toowoomba South, it seems to be, and my question revolves around Toowoomba South, around the infrastructure of Toowoomba South. We have, being the gateway to Falls Creek in winter time, we pick up most of the trade from Mount Beauty because a lot of traffic misses Mount Beauty. However, we do not have public toilets. We do not, and you spoke about the importance of car parking. What seems to be adequate car parking or growth of car parking. We have a dilapidated information sign with outdated information. So I wonder if the thought process behind the planning, the growth of Toowoomba South, and in most of the framework plans up until 7 years ago, the last one I found, spoke of Toowoomba South being a residential backup for Mount Beauty. Nothing really spoke about the commercial growth in Mount Beauty, Toowoomba South. It seems to me to be on a little bit of a seesaw at the moment with more houses being introduced. It is mixed zoned as well as commercial zoned. However, if the growth of more houses continues in Toowoomba South, you've lost whether or not you're coming into Toowoomba South of town or with business strips up and down, that'd be a business strip, or Toowoomba South, the suburb. So my question is, and I apologise for not having enough information to narrow down the question as such, but I wonder if there's a framework plan for businesses in Toowoomba South, the growth of businesses, i.e. car parking, the signage, information boards. Currently outside our shop, we have car parking that is the width of an actual car. So majority of my older customers, I walk to their cars because when you open your door, you're opening a car door onto a lane. So from a safety perspective, we have very unsafe car parking. We're lucky our landlord has a car park that we can use. However, it's no different to other ski shops down the road and other businesses on the same strip. So I wonder, what is the framework plan for Toowoomba South?
Well, that's a very good question because of the officers. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you, David. So, I guess council has committed heavily into upgrading the streetscapes on its town centre. So we've already done Mount Beauty here, and with Mapleton Square, Paul Hunker's nearly finished as well. We're about to roll on to Myrtleford as well. And so all of these projects come with significant planning up front and then delivery. And one thing that the council is very mindful of is actually when we do a plan, then we like to deliver upon it. I think councils across the board have a guilty of doing plans because plans are easy and plans are cheap, but delivering on ground's hard. So it's a long way around to answer your question. So, but in doing so, councillors, we're heavily committed, and it costs significant capital to make these improvements. So I'm reluctant to give an indication of timing that when we would do a framework plan for Toowoomba South at this point. I think that the need is there, and I think it's a logical sequence after doing the other larger town centres to move into the next stage. But about when we would do that, next tier down, I don't have a clear answer for you.
Can I make a point, please, Mr Mayor?
Yes.
Regarding the question?
Yes.
It is an issue which we've already taken to council to have public toilet facilities and car parking in the area. So I would ask David to come along to our committee meeting and talk to us, because he may be able to give us some more to back up what we've already put forward.
Just, David, I heard that so car parking wasn't a problem. It was just
more as the safety of car parking.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of car parks, it's just the approach.
That's right. So the business district has the potential to grow, depending whether empty vacant blocks of land have houses or businesses put on them. So I just wonder if the council was backing the growth that could be there.
I don't think it's a matter of council not backing the growth. I think it's about council having the capacity to actually do the planning and actually deliver upon those plans.
Yeah.
And so, from, I guess, looking at this council plan for the next 4 years, I think it's unlikely council will be in a position for the next 4 years
Yes.
to do that. But beyond that, also just give you, I guess I would like to give a timing notice, Tav.
That's right. Yeah, but I noticed we have a very small business, yet every time that we expand our business, we pay more money to the Shire. Whether we add a dairy product, we pay more money. We add hot food, we pay more money. So after a small business paying and paying, you start wondering, what do I get back? Whereas, a very small business, where is my money going?
Okay, well, if you could make contact with Mary, they advocate, the UK VCA advocate on behalf of individuals and business. That is something that we may have to look at our planning into the future once we get these projects delivered, and then we need to plan strategically forward for the next 5-10 years where we're going to go next, because we have to have planning in place for that time that is ready to go when the appropriate grants come out, and we have to look at our long-term financial planning as well to encompass all of that, so that we're not caught short-footed. Now, we are in a reasonable state at the moment with the Shire, but that doesn't mean we've got buckets of money. We are in a reasonable financial state, but the more you spend, that reasonableness drops as well until you get some more money in. And the biggest source of our money is the ratepayer, and I just got my rates this week.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, there's two issues here realistically. One is, and I hear you, one is that when the Q's been talking about, various possibilities being mooted for public laboratories, that when we try to track those down and try to make some firm arrangements, the goalposts seem to move. The other drama you've got is the main road through Toowoomba South, or the Golden Miles we like to refer to it as, is actually a Vic Roads road. And we're having enough trouble at the moment to actually get a decent crossing in to facilitate school children crossing the highway, and that's proving difficult enough currently as well too. So, we've got to, if we want to do something in Toowoomba South, and it's along the highway, we really have to have our, we need to go to Vic Roads, all our guns loaded, and make sure we get the outcome.
For my clarification, because I had a feeling that a bit of the buck be passed on to Vic Roads. So where do Vic Roads responsibility end? From the lanes to the car park, or from the car park to the footpath?
That's a technical question. I'm not qualified to answer that.
Carriageway, which includes the car park.
So, firstly, I'm not 100% clear. Secondly, I believe it varies. So subject to whether there's a curve there, and if there's if it's sealed to the curve, they're probably responsible for the curve. But then in terms of resealing the road, they will just reseal the main thoroughfare. not the car parked area. It's
That's
all-
right, because I know now, when I think back to heavy vehicle parking, you're only allowed, if you've got a heavy vehicle, you're only allowed to park for a certain amount of time where there's a curb on the edge of the highway. If there's no curb on the highway, you can park for as long as you like. So on the other side of the road, you can park heavy vehicles, you can't on this side. So Vic Roads control that rule.
And then when it comes to maintaining, I guess, mowing the sides as well, so the town will take care of that. But further out beyond the town limits, they take care of that sides. I don't think
That's right, I think I'll make as well.
Thank you. I think
you
if
have
you-
another question about the business directory. The business directory, I think you mentioned that it was outdated.
Yes.
I think is that a Rotary or a Lions structure? It's not. There's a
I think
chamber.
it was chamber.
It's a chamber structure. I don't think it's anything to do with council. I don't,
I think
no. So,
So,
so I believe.
we'll get someone to have a look at that sign and see whose responsibility that was. I understand the Chamber of Commerce in Mount Beauty is not as active as it once was.
And, Mr. Mayor, if I may, thanks for bringing the business
Do we have further questions?
Just got one statement, I don't want to make a question. I'd just like to take this opportunity, as tonight I believe we'll find out who the new CEO might be, to say thank you to Charlie for the role he's filled for the last few months. I think he's been incredibly responsive to whenever you send him an email, you always get something back. So I congratulate you, Charlie, and I think...
Not always, we found out.
We've got two missing emails somewhere.
you have to receive them to respond to them, John.
Oh, true, true.
Councillor Forsyth.
The board, the council has no your comment for Mr. Bird.
Excuse me, it's last question for me.
Yes, sir.
Sorry. Listen, it's, very often we walk around the lake on
Yes.
this embankment and so on. And is any chance to increase the signs which make the people aware that dogs, with the walking the dogs, has to be on leash? Because it's, we have a lot of experience with the people just walking around with walking the dog, and the dog really run everywhere. And sometimes when you walking with small children, they been afraid and they been scared off, and the people just sometimes it's very unpleasant when you can say put the dog on the leash or something like this, and they say.
Ms Cook is responsible for that area.
I would need to have a look at the actual area and see if that's a dog off leash area. Most of our more rural areas, I understand, aren't areas where people are required to have their dog on a leash. But I would have to have a look at that actual area.
Yeah, but how you can policing this? It's
I'm not sure if they need to have their dog on a leash in that area. They only need to have their dog on a leash if that's an area under our local law that requires it. So we have to have a look at that area. If people have their dog on a leash in an off-leash area, they are required to have their dog under their control. I know that that's easier said than done, but for that
you want me
particular
to
law...
provide you a photo or something like this?
No,
or
for
what
that,
is,
for that
because it's,
particular law, I would just need to know where that is, and I could give you, I could come back and let you know if that's a dog on leash area. I have to say, to walk around a lake, I'd be surprised if that's a dog on leash area.
If we could, after the meeting, if you're prepared to stay for the meeting,
yeah, because
sir,
when you walk
and you
with
could
the
meet with
grandchildren,
Ms.
it's
You could meet with Ms.
all of
Cook
a
at
sudden
the
it's
completion of the meeting, and we have computers and iPads here that can identify it off the mapping system, and you could let us know, and that will make it a little bit easier for Ms. Cook to
And then I can find out under our local law
work out which area it is.
what that requires in terms of if it's a dog on leash.
Very good. If there's no more questions, we'll keep moving. Presentation of reports by officers, item 8. There are none. 8.1.1. There is contracts approved. Councillor
Second.
Nicholas. Councillor Roper. No need for discussion on that, I don't
I
think.
was going to ask,
Oh, yes.
where was the asphalt works?
The asphalt works, there are about 25 to 30 sites in the Upper Uplands area, so the same location where we undertook the RESI and the road resealing program, so instead of the slash volumes in the resealing.
Yep. Any further comment or question? All those in favour? Carried. 8.2, 8.2.1, community grants. And it's at this point,
I'll move to suspend standing orders.
thank you, Councillor Roper, seconder.
Second.
Councillor Forsyth.
Sorry.
Um,
So we just note that those leaving leave.
Yes, there'll be some of us leaving the room, so, and we need to...
You're leaving.
Nominate the chair.
Yeah, no, we'll do that in a second when you're gone.
And you're gone.
When I'm gone.
Yeah, so item 1,
Yes,
please.
No, it should be.
no, we're going to record it.
I was going to grab some of these cards.
All right. Move to reinstate standing orders. Who's that? And also move to elect a mayor to chair the meeting. Councillor Pearce, seconded. All those in favour? You're it, Darryl.
Okay, 2.1. The recommendation that each council supports a community grants program assisting to fund projects that encourage community development, community resilience and social inclusion. The 2017-18 community grants program opened for applications at the beginning of May and closed on June 30, 17, and council received 32 applications, with one of those being transferred to events funding stream. 27 are recommended for funding, with a total funding amount of $79,535. So recommendation, the allocations for the funding there in black and white, so we ask for a mover there.
There's 2, 3 and 4 to go, I think, isn't there?
Sure.
Yep. Another page.
2, 3, yeah, on 2, 3 and 4 we'll ask for a mover. So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favour? Any questions on it? Do we need any questions on it? Anyone? It's pretty straightforward here what the funds are.
I'd just like to make a comment that I'm looking forward to some of these things coming to fruition. There's some really great projects.
Okay.
Well done to the leaders.
Charlie?
No, it's straightforward.
Okay, all those in favour?
Done.
Motion passed.
This one. 8.2.2.
Penny of Last Lane, would you like to speak to the mention program?
So a bit of background. Annually, councils provided support to event organisers across the Shire to deliver events across the Shire. This year, this financial year, just gone, a total of 145 events were delivered, with a financial estimated economic impact of 41 million across the Shire. This year, a budget amount of 270,000 was adopted by council through the council budget process for event funding to support events again. The program was open from 1st of May to 30th of June, and a total of 54 applications received this year, with a total ask of 383,000. A funding panel was put together with representation from across the Shire, and the assessment panel provides recommendation for 49 events of those 54 to be funded to the total of 238,000 $1,700. A further $15,000 has been set aside for the erection, dismantle and cleaning of council marquees for spring events in Bright. And $43,000 of this total allocation is actually allowed for in council's wages budget to staff, for staff to deliver logistical support, leaving a residual of $59,325 in the event funding budget. Surplus funds we're seeking to use for other event opportunities, such as other events that are talking to us now to come to the region, including Great Vic Bike Ride in November 2018 and MTBA Downhill event in February 2018. And some of the other events that didn't make it to the recommendation that's been put forward. So the recommendation put forward is for council to move the recommendations as read, so allocating financial sponsorship and logistical funding to the events that have been set out. And furthermore, sorry, I've got my fingers mixed up here, that the residual funding be 59,000, sorry, I've lost my page, everyone.
Page 14.
Provides delegation to the CEO to distribute the residual funds of $59,325 to those events that I mentioned before and other opportunities arising throughout the year. And the officers provide feedback and assistance to unsuccessful applicants on their funding application.
Need a mover?
So moved.
Second. Got any comment, Councillor Roper?
No, I'm looking forward to seeing some of these events come to our community, and looking forward to, I'd like to congratulate those that put their hat in the ring, and also congratulate the Shire for offering assistance funds to help them better put applications in the future.
Councillor Nicky?
Nothing more to add to that.
Any other comments, John?
No, just that I'd like, when you are looking through this, there are a couple of asterisks which are brand new events. So subsequently, the 59,000 that's left over, you just don't know what's going to come up. Someone will come up with a brilliant idea next week and they'll want funding in February, March. And if we haven't got that money set aside or left aside, then it's very difficult to fund it at that point in time. So, no, I think it's good.
Okay, all those in favour? Motion's passed. Peter?
Move to suspend the standing orders.
Invite them back in. Invite them back in or wait? Passed. Bring them in. Bring them back.
They've all come this way, Sarah. Move to resume standing orders. Yeah.
Thank you, councillors, for making those deliberations in our absence. And as we are a thrifty council, Councillor Pearce, there will be no upgrading allowed.
One more here.
Item 8.3. Director of Corporate Cook, there's nothing. We do have item 9, and at this point in the meeting I would ask that the acting CEO, Mr. Bird, to excuse himself from the room. Just to go out there, Charlie, Goldie, I did. The reason I'm asking Mr. Bird to vacate the room is that he has been one of the people who has nominated for the position of Chief Executive Officer. So in good governance he should not be present while Council makes its deliberation. Councillors, I have given to you a confidential report from the agency that conducted the search for a new CEO. I hope you've had a chance to read and digest its contents. We had approximately 46 applicants for the position from throughout Australia. Some of those through the process were eliminated. Of course, by the recruitment agency, because they didn't meet the criteria, but they were still of high calibre. Ads were placed in the local papers, was advertised in The Age on the 29th of April, the Border Mail on the 6th of May, and the North East Jobs Directory on the 10th of May. It also appeared in Seek, LinkedIn, and on Davidson's, who were our recruiting agency's website. All applications were assessed and considered with the conditions specified in the notice, with interviews conducted with suitable candidates, and we were given a list of all candidates. The appointment of Chief Executive Officer must be by the resolution of Council and is the subject of this report. The Executive Officer is employed under contract with set performance criteria and a specified expiry date. Psychometric testing was done with the appropriate candidates. We had an independent person on the panel who was of a had high corporate background and was very valuable to the panel. The panel included myself, Councillor Knapstein, Councillor Keeble and Councillor Nicholas, and with the one independent person. A report, which I referred to earlier, a confidential report, was submitted to Council, and I have distributed that report to my fellow councillors. Councillors, have you read those reports, and do you have any questions that either can be asked in open in the open forum that we have here, or in camera?
I'm happy to go live or...
Are we happy to proceed in the public forum? Thank you. I think that's in good governance. And please bear in mind, I haven't mentioned who the other applicants are. That is confidential and respectful to those applicants. Councillor Oaken, will help me out. Am I put the name out? Fill the dots in here, or I'll read the recommendation?
Well, I actually think, seeing as it's your report, someone else should probably move it.
Someone else can move it.
You read the name out.
Can you make the recommendation?
The recommendation is that Mr. Charlie Bird be appointed to the position of the Chief Executive Officer for the Alpine Shire for the period, for the period of 5 years, commencing the 2nd of August 2017 and expiring 5 years after that in 2022. I'm sorry, I don't have that exact date there. 2nd of August 2022. First of August 2022. The Chief Executive Officer's contract of employment between the Alpine Shire and Charlie Bird be signed and sealed. That contract is not being properly formulated, and it cannot be formulated until a decision is made of this council. That will be a document that will be signed and sealed at a council meeting afterwards, at the next council meeting. So, may I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Nicholas. Seconder. Councillor Knapstein. Councillor Nicholas. Comment?
I'd like to echo Mary's comments that Charlie's done an exceptional job as acting and was a successful candidate based on his qualities.
Councillor Epstein?
It was a pretty rigorous process, and there were 48 applications, 14 were interviewed, 7 shortlisted, no names mentioned. But they outlined the process to us. They went through it endlessly. It's exhaustive, and I think it just goes to show that, tested against the market, that Charlie was the right fit for the position, and is a known quantity and is the right fit for the job. And that's what the conclusion we come to, and that was our recommendation.
Thank you. Further comment?
One further question.
Councillor Roper.
Do you actually know if Charlie's name's Charlie or Charles?
We'll ask him when he comes back.
Charlie, it's a nice ring to it.
Oh, we might have to put Charles in the contract if that is correct name. That's all.
I believe his application didn't say Charlie.
Charlie, right. Anyway.
Councillor Pearce?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. The Mayor mentioned before that there was a panel of 4 councillors and 1 independent, but also that was right at the end when we went to the interviews. In essence, all the councillors, all 7 of us, partake all the way through in the actual process of recruitment. It just so happens we don't want to have 7 people sitting on a table with 1 applicant when we do an interview. So that was the final panel when it was read out. But in essence all councillors on the table are responsible for their appointment.
Right, all councillors were kept informed along the process.
Thank you.
Any further comment? Councillor Pearce?
Yeah, I'd also like to concur with Mary Pike and my colleagues who are on the panel, and I trust their judgment, and I think it's a very good choice, and I think we're in a great position to carry forward on the journey we're already on. You know, the last few years of you know, the cars we got rid of, they're all seen in the car park there a few years ago that people noticed. You know, the millions of dollars we slashed from the budget over the last few years. But having said that, there's still work left to be done. You know, it's like winning tax lotto in Broadmeadows. It mightn't last long. So it's important that we've got this young and vibrant team that we've got running the shop at the moment, who are, in my opinion, bloody fantastic, to carry on. And what a better bloke to carry on and keep the team going strongly than Charlie. And when he comes back in, I'll be thanking him so much for being successful.
They overpumped your heart, I'm sure.
I might also add that. I might also add that there was a good representation of male and female on the people who applied for the job. So there were some really well-heeled and respected ladies there too. So, but our organisation, as it is at the moment, still needs some work to be doing. We know where that work needs to be done. The hard yards have been achieved, and I thank not only my councillors but staff for going down that journey so that you know, we've been able to achieve that. And I think it is now to a stage where we need still to be going forward, but at perhaps a more even pace, so that staff can settle down to the tasks that are allocated to them and continue to make some improvements so that our service delivery can be maintained. I don't know who will have the honour to... Mr. Pearce.
We need to vote on it first.
We better vote.
Vote first.
Well, I'm going to tell them negative.
All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. Carried. Mr. Pearce. Calling the keep him a bad luck.
I'll expect the tie down.
I'm sorry, Charlie, we were unaware of, is it Charles or Charlie?
My current Charlie.
No tie.
Yours, even yours. That's okay.
CEO needs a tie.
Well, we don't know.
I think Charles would wear a tie.
The KPIs have yet to be set, and it would appear that the first KPI
That wasn't made clear. The process.
something we can, and I note that there are a lot of younger CEOs these days that aren't paid enough so that they can afford a tie. So,
I like to wear a tie, Charlie. Could I invite you to say some words, Mr. Bird?
Very good. Look, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to all the councillors. It's a great honour and privilege to be given such responsibility. It's not something I ever thought I would do, actually, be a CEO of a local council. I have quite a diverse background. Over the years I've been a farmer, truck driver. I've started, run and sold a few businesses. I've led a car sharing business in Melbourne, worked in the public and private sector, the water, natural resource management, local government sectors, engineering, I'm an environmental engineer by trade as well. So look, I guess in some ways that diversity is a strength, that allows me to, I can talk to a whole range of people, a whole different levels, having had those experiences, so that's great. And the Alpine Shire, it's a beautiful part of the world, we all know that. We're all very lucky. You're lucky to live here, I'm lucky to work here. I'm very close to you. A former councillor, Stuart Hargraves, made it very clear to me. I think the first time I met him as I was Director of Assets, he made it very clear. But there are reasons why I'm just starting at the edge. So look, it's a great part of the world. It's got a really strong economy. It's got great communities, and I look forward to working with the councillors here and implementing the direction of their strong leadership. I look forward to listening to and working with the communities. Because I guess I've been fortunate enough over this time to forge really strong relationships. I think back to some dialogue that Mary and I had a couple of weeks back. We may not have agreed on a particular point. However, I think what was really good about that was both being able to have respectful conversations for both parties, and I think that's I'd like to continue on with that going forward. And last but not least, I guess, we've got a great team here at Alpine Shire Council, and I'm really, really proud to be part of that team, and I look forward to working with that team to deliver exceptional outcomes for the community. So, thank you.
Always a quirky thing about a person, and I've just been at a conference, and so Charlie has a WB ute. That's a Holden WB, and he needs some spare parts. So if you've got one sitting on the farm, contact the CEO. That's his new vehicle for...
Did you use paper maps to get somewhere, like with that ICL? Did you use some digital maps?
Oh, the...
Yeah,
No, I wasn't with him.
make sure you take your paper maps.
I'll be commissioned. Item 10, Assembly of Councillors. Move in a second, please, the recommendation is Councillor Keeble and Councillor Pearce. Any go to the vote in favour? Carried. Item 11, general business from my right. Councillor Pearce.
I'm too tired tonight.
You've done very well.
That's good to be sitting down the end here, that's all I can say.
You're welcome back.
Councillor Corso?
No.
Councillor Epstein?
I'd just like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I know it's the second day of winter, first day of winter. So thanks for coming out tonight and bringing your questions.
It just starts in July, doesn't it? Or June?
Does it? No, it starts in August.
No. September, spring starts in September. But yeah, I suppose
It's the
mid.
1st of August. Yeah, well, it's his birthday. Which is only for 1 month.
No, the spring starts on the 2nd of August.
I'm just...
Call back.
I'll come back. Councillor Rover?
I'm going to give a bit of a leading towards, I think, where we'll be heading with this new CEO. And I think one of the first things I like to see the new CEO deal with is possibly improving the customer service at Alpine Shire. So I think that's, Mr Mayor, you intimated that we've done some pretty hard work in the past. And I think our next challenge for us as a council is to get on top of the customer service at Alpine Shire and turn it into a true customer service organisation. Where if you ring up, you get a response, you get some action, or you get some detailed responses why there won't be an action or whatever. So as everyone gets and in a reasonable and timely fashion. So I think that is going to be a big challenge for us. And I look forward to working with Charlie and his team. And I'm sure as our councillors do. So as when we wander down the streets and someone has a bit of a clip at us about something, or with those 2 emails or leaflets referencing that we'll have a better process in place to deal with those things. That's my do wins.
I like what Peter said. I agree. I don't agree with anything else.
Thank you. Councillor, nothing from you, Charlie? No. Oh, Councillor Pearce.
Yeah, I've had my tablet, so I'm ready to go again. I'd just like to say thank you to the Mount Beauty people, because sitting in this building where we quite often in the old days had our council meeting, it's bloody, I love that word, fantastic to be back here. It's just a great place for a council meeting, and the hall's looking great. And when I see Jimmy grabbing up the back there, it reminds me of them good old days, Jim.
Okay, nothing further. Thank you. Councillors, motions for which notice has previously been given, there are nil listed. Item 13, reading and reception and reading of petitions. There are none. Documents for sealing, item 14. I'll move in a second, please. I'll move it. Councillor Forsyth.
Second.
Councillor Keith. Thank you. All those in favour?